When we talk about character placement in comic books, we split it into two separate sections. The one we're talking about today is posing and lighting, and the one we'll talk about next week is going to be background versus foreground. So we'll start with posing. Posing is kind of like the body language, the way that we set up our character. We focus on two poses in this course, the triumphant hero and the brooding villain. So we'll start with the triumphant hero. It's our typical superhero pose. They're standing tall, chest puffed out, arms away from the body or arms at hips, legs apart, face forward or up. It's just an overall feeling of confidence, power, and strength. I do want to point out that just because you're a hero doesn't mean you always do the hero pose, and just because you're a villain doesn't mean you'll always do the villain pose. There are times when the villain thinks he's won, but he'll do this pose too. We're thinking about it as the pose, not as the person doing the pose. Next we have the brooding villain. Their body is hunched over or slumped. Their hands are close to the body or clasped together, legs together or bent. It's a very defensive look, very opposite of the hero. They look like they're ready to be attacked or hit or something like that. So here's some examples. As you can see, all the people in the top, their legs are apart, arms out at the hips, standing up straight, chest out, face forward. And then we have our villain slumped over, body into itself, kind of hunched over and defensive. Some more examples. Up in the top, when we're flying, we usually have that hero pose. Arms are out, we're up, we're facing out. We have a lot of hero poses here as well, even though he's kind of like crouched. He's still out and up, arms out, chest out, looking brave. And then in the front, we have these three that are villain poses. Hunched over, arms in. Even though their legs are out on these ones, they're still overall hunched over. So it still counts. And then like this guy, hunched over, arms in. Next, we're going to talk about lighting. This is the second part of posing and lighting. So the lighting affects the mood of a comic, and I want you to remember that lighting always affects mood. So when I ask you about lighting, I'm asking you what it changes in the mood. It can change to be evil or good, and usually light represents goodness, so heroes oftentimes are in the light, and darkness represents evil, so villains will often stand in the shadows or have their face covered by the shadows, like this example down here. So here's an example of the heroic front lighting. It gives us a positive mood. It's shining on our hero. He looks very triumphant and powerful. He is ready to go. Here's another example. Even though these characters are lit from the back, the mood is still positive. It's just outlining them. It's not covering them in shadow or anything like that. Finally, here's an example of backlighting that's a negative mood. It covers our characters in shadows so we can't see their face, and it makes them look scary or creepy. That was an example of posing and lighting, so be sure to reference these notes if you need while looking for these in today's readings.